What happens when the man who built a bakery empire from scratch walks into one of his own stores as a rookie trainee and no one knows who he is? Quentin Vale stood outside the bakery's rear entrance, his breath visible in the morning chill. 18 stores. That's how many his company had grown into over the last 12 years. The flagship store still had his fingerprints on the walls. He'd laid the tiles himself. But now, he spent his days in meetings, reviewing numbers, and hearing updates from people who heard them from other people. Lately, something felt off. Sales were steady, but employee retention had slipped. There were whispers in the exit interviews, something about poor treatment at one of his busiest locations. That was Store 15, a bustling downtown spot with a high turnover rate and a long list of new hires who never lasted past a month. Quentin didn't want filtered updates anymore. He needed the truth. So he shaved his beard, dyed his salt and pepper hair dark brown, put on thick glasses, and wore a faded hoodie over a plain white tee. His name tag read Kevin. He'd never met the team at Store 15. They only knew corporate by name, and the manager had joined after Quentin stopped doing personal interviews.
Perfect.
He stepped inside. A young woman with a tired smile greeted him. You the new trainee?
Yeah.
Kevin, he said, adjusting his glasses. First day.
Cool.
I'm Jamie, assistant manager. You'll shadow me for a bit, then move to prep with the kitchen team. The place was buzzing. Customers lined up for the morning rush, the air filled with the scent of cinnamon and fresh dough. Quentin kept his head down and followed instructions. He washed trays, restocked the display fridge, and wiped tables. Every employee seemed too busy to talk, focused, fast, but tense. 3 hours in, Jamie sent him to the back to help prep with the kitchen staff. You'll be with Darren, she said. He's the head baker. Don't take it personal if he's rude.
He's
intense. Quentin nodded, stepping into the kitchen. The heat hit him instantly, ovens roaring and mixers humming. Darren, a tall man in his 50s with a shaved head and a voice like gravel, didn't even turn around. You the new guy? Yes, sir, Quentin replied. Darren pointed a flour-coated finger at a metal table. Scrape that dough bin, then clean the slicer. And don't screw it up. Quentin got to work. He stayed quiet, observing. Darren barked orders at everyone, but one person seemed to get it worse than anyone else, a fragile-looking older man in an apron too big for him. Harold, Darren yelled across the room. You slice that bread like you're chopping firewood. You trying to ruin my rhythm again? I'm sorry, Harold said, voice trembling slightly. I'll fix it. You've been here, 2 months? And you still can't slice a baguette? You should have stayed retired. Quentin paused, his hands frozen over the slicer. Harold looked down, shoulders slumped. He was slow, yes, but careful. And he smiled at everyone, even Darren. He looked at Quentin and gave a small, embarrassed wave. Move faster, old man. Or go home. I don't have time for charity projects in my kitchen. Quentin clenched his jaw. He wanted to say something, anything, but he needed to see more. Later that afternoon, Quentin took his break near the loading dock. Jamie joined him, sipping cold coffee. Is Harold okay? He asked casually.
Jamie sighed.
He's sweet. Used to own a bookstore down the street. Said he got lonely after it closed and wanted to learn something new. Corporate approved his application, some community hiring program we started last year. He really tries, but Darren's not patient. Seems rough. He's worse when the district manager isn't around. But he gets results. Customers love the bread. So, corporate doesn't interfere. Quentin stared at the ground. He'd launched that community program himself. And now it was being used to humiliate a man just trying to find purpose again. That night, Quentin couldn't sleep. He thought about Harold wiping his eyes when he thought no one was watching. He thought about Darren's voice, cutting and cruel. He had wanted honesty and he got it. But what came next would need more than a disguise. By the end of his 3rd day, Quentin had memorized the rhythm of Store 15. From the time the lights flicked on before sunrise to the constant hum of ovens and register beeps, it moved like a wound-up spring tight and barely controlled. The team worked hard, that much was clear. But it was also clear they were holding their breath around Darren. Quentin had kept his head down, doing every task thrown his way. He chopped fruit, wiped down mixers, and ran trays in and out of the blast chiller. Darren barely acknowledged him other than to issue commands. Everyone else? They kept moving, eyes averted when he barked at someone, especially Harold. The worst part wasn't the yelling. It was how casual it had become. No one flinched anymore. They just endured it. That Thursday afternoon, Quentin was assigned to kitchen cleanup with a younger guy named Michael. He looked barely out of high school and had a quiet, careful way of folding his apron before clocking in. "You been here long?" Quentin asked, wiping down a counter. "Since May," Michael said, not looking up. "This is my second job." "Do you like it?" "It's steady, I guess." He dipped a sponge into the sanitizer bucket, then paused. "But people leave fast. Like fast. Why's that?" Michael hesitated, then glanced toward the swinging kitchen door. "You've seen how Darren talks to people. It's worse when it's low. He says stuff just to mess with you." Quentin nodded once. "You ever report it?" "To who?" "Jamie can't do anything. She's stuck between him and the district guy. And the last person who complained? They just stopped getting shifts." Quentin's chest tightened. "Who was that?" "A girl named Aria. She was good. Fast with pastries, always helped close. She told Jamie she couldn't take the yelling anymore. Next week, her hours got cut down to like 2 days. Then none." Quentin had never heard of Aria. Her name never made it to his desk. He asked no more questions. Michael had already said too much. Later that day, Quentin was restocking flour when he heard something heavy crash behind him. He turned and saw Harold on the floor, a plastic bin tipped over beside him. A bag of sugar had landed awkwardly on his shin. Darren was already there, arms crossed. "You got to be kidding me," Darren said. "You can't even carry 20 pounds without falling over?" Harold winced as he sat up, his apron stained white. "I just lost my grip." "I'm okay." "You're not okay. You're a liability. You're gonna get someone sued." Darren turned to the others. "Someone get this mess cleaned. Honestly, why are we pretending this guy belongs in a commercial kitchen?" Quentin knelt beside Harold and gently helped him sit on an upside-down crate. "Let me get you some ice." Harold shook his head.
"I'm all right."
"I just slipped. My leg's fine." "You don't need to prove anything," Quentin said quietly. Then, louder, "He needs the rest of the day off." Darren scoffed. "And who's gonna finish the prep list?" "You." "I'll figure it out," Quentin said without breaking eye contact. Darren threw a towel onto the bench.
"Fine."
"But don't come crying when we fall behind." Quentin helped Harold to the break room, grabbed an ice pack from the small fridge, and handed it to him. "You shouldn't carry anything that heavy alone." "I didn't want to ask for help. Darren already thinks I'm useless." "You're not useless. You're learning." Harold gave a small laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Learning's not welcome here. Just obedience." Quentin stayed quiet for a second, then asked, "Why don't you quit?" "I thought about it. But this place is the only thing that gets me out of the house. I like the smell of the bread." "The first thing you lose when you get old is purpose." "I thought I found some again." Quentin looked away. "You did. You just haven't been treated like it." That evening, Quentin stayed late to finish prep. The others had clocked out, but Darren remained, kneading dough with sharp, mechanical movements. "You don't have to stay late," Darren said, not looking up. "I don't mind learning." Darren didn't speak for a while. Then he said, "You've been watching a lot. You ask a lot of questions. Just trying to do things right. You're not bad. Better than most we get." You ever wonder why most don't stay? Darren wiped flour from his hands. This isn't daycare. It's a kitchen. People who can't keep up don't belong here. What about people who want to belong? Wanting's not enough. Either you've got it or you don't. Quentin folded his arms. And who decides that? You? Darren finally looked up. You don't know how this place runs. You wouldn't last a week without someone like me keeping it from falling apart. I think it's already falling apart. You just can't see it. Darren narrowed his eyes. You got something to say? Not yet. But soon. Quentin left without another word. The next morning, he arrived early and waited in the alley behind the store. When Jamie showed up, he stopped her before she could go inside. Jamie, he said, voice low. I need a minute. She looked confused. Kevin? What's going on? Quentin reached into his hoodie and pulled out his wallet. He opened it, revealing his business ID with his real name and title. Jamie's eyes widened. Wait, what?
I'm Quentin Vale.
I own this company. She stepped back. Is this some kind of test? What is happening?
No test.
I went undercover to see what was happening in this store. And I've seen enough. Jamie glanced at the door. Are we in trouble?
No.
But some things are going to change. Starting today. I need you to do something for me. He handed her a folded sheet of paper. Read this to the team when everyone's clocked in. I'll be in the office by then. And Jamie, thank you for being decent. She nodded slowly, still stunned. 30 minutes later, the staff gathered near the front counter. Quentin waited in the office with a door cracked open. He listened as Jamie cleared her throat and read the statement. This is from Quentin Vale, the owner of Vale's Bakery. He has been working undercover in the store as a trainee named Kevin for the past several days. He witnessed firsthand the conditions in our kitchen and how some employees, especially our apprentices, have been treated. Effective immediately, there will be a review of all management practices. No employee, regardless of experience, background, or age, should be demeaned or belittled in any store bearing this name. There was a long silence after she finished. Then footsteps approached the office. Darren entered without knocking. Is this some kind of joke? Quentin stood.
No.
Sit down. I've been in this business for 25 years, and you've lost sight of what leadership means. You don't get to talk to people like they're trash. Not here. Not ever. Darren's jaw tightened. You're going to throw away production numbers because a few soft kids can't handle pressure? I'm going to throw away anyone who treats people like they're expendable. You don't understand what it takes to run a kitchen. I built this kitchen. Darren's mouth opened, then closed. He looked at the floor. You're done here, Quentin said. Security will escort you out. Your final paycheck will be processed by week's end. Darren didn't argue. He left without another word. Quentin stepped out into the kitchen. The team stood frozen, some holding spatulas or trays mid-task. All eyes were on him.
I'm Quentin Vale.
I started this company in a borrowed kitchen above a laundromat. I've made mistakes. One of them was thinking I could understand what's happening on the ground from a conference room. I was wrong. Nobody moved. Darren is gone. If he treated you badly, I'm sorry. That ends now. Jamie will take over as interim manager while we restructure. We'll be hiring more help and offering additional training to anyone who wants it. If you've got suggestions, I want to hear them. Starting today, this place changes. Still silence. Then someone clapped. Then another. Soon, the whole room was applauding, not loudly, just enough to break the weight that had been pressing down on them all week. Quentin looked at Harold, who stood near the prep sink, apron freshly tied. Harold, Quentin said, you're staying as long as you want. And no more lifting heavy bins. That's an order. Harold gave a small nod, eyes moist. Quentin turned to the rest of the team. Let's make some bread. By the time the store opened the next morning, the news had spread. Darren was gone. No one said it outright, But the energy in the kitchen was lighter, cautious, but undeniably different. There was no celebration, no dramatic shift in tone. Just a quiet absence where tension used to sit. Quentin didn't expect things to change overnight. He hadn't come in to play hero and then vanish. He arrived early, no hoodie, no glasses, no disguise, and stood at the back prep table, sleeves rolled up, apron tied tight. He didn't want to observe anymore. He wanted to work. Jamie approached him, near the mixer.
Her voice was low, calm.
"We're short again today." One of the closers called in. Michael's already covering his shift from yesterday. He didn't say anything, but he looked wrecked. "I'll take the last shift," Quentin said, reaching for a tray of dough. "And let's talk hiring later today. We need more hands, and fast." She nodded, then paused. "The team's waiting for you to disappear. They think this is just a reaction." "I know," Quentin said. "Give them time." The day moved steadily, though slower than usual. Without Darren looming, people moved more deliberately, like they were trying to remember how to work without being barked at. Harold was back, folding parchment with quiet focus. He didn't speak much, but he didn't flinch anymore, either. Mid-morning, Quentin sat in the back office with Jamie. A stack of resumes sat untouched on the desk. "Show me the applicants we passed on in the last month," he said. Jamie gave him a cautious look. "Why those? I want to see who we didn't hire and why." She tapped a few times on the old desktop monitor and turned it toward him. Most of these didn't get through Darren's screen. He had final say on all kitchen hires. Quentin scrolled through.
Names. Notes.
Rejections.
His jaw tightened as he read.
Didn't look confident. Too soft-spoken. Didn't seem like they'd survive the pressure. He looked up. "These aren't evaluations. They're judgments." Jamie exhaled. He had a type. Young, fast, quiet, and disposable, Quentin added. He flagged 6 names. "Reach out to these folks. If they're still looking, I want them in for a second interview. With me. Not as some PR move. I want to fix what we broke." That afternoon, he stepped back into the kitchen during the lull between rushes. Michael was wiping down the walk-in door, face pale, shoulders slumped. "You've worked double shifts 2 days in a row," Quentin said, standing beside him. "I'm good," Michael said quickly. "Just tired. You're 17, right? 18 in March. You going to school?"
Mikael hesitated.
"Not right now. I was supposed to start classes last fall. Had to push them back. My mom lost her job, so you're doing too much," Quentin said. "We'll get you a replacement. And I'm putting a hard limit on back-to-back shifts for anyone under 21. That's non-negotiable." Michael nodded, but didn't speak. He just rubbed the back of his neck and looked away. Quentin scanned the kitchen. One oven buzzed. A tray of croissants was cooling on a wire rack. Everything was running, barely, but it was running. He stepped through the swing door into the front, where the early afternoon crowd was light. A woman in a red coat was at the counter, speaking to the cashier, a part-timer named Brenna. She was new, maybe 3 weeks in. "I understand it was a mistake," the woman said, voice loud, sharp. "But I'm allergic to peanuts. That's not something you take lightly." "I'm really sorry," Brenna said, flustered. The label was switched. "I've already pulled the rest of the batch." "I don't care about the batch," the woman snapped. "I care about the fact that I could have ended up in the ER because someone back there doesn't check their trays." Quentin stepped forward. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I'm the owner. I want to make this right." The woman turned, startled. "You're in charge?"
"Yes.
"And I take this seriously." He looked at Brenna. "Who prepped the morning pastries?" Brenna pointed. "I think it was Sam and Lila." Quentin signaled to Jamie, who was wiping down a nearby counter. "Can you pull the prep logs from this morning?" Jamie nodded and disappeared into the office. "I understand your anger," Quentin said to the customer. "I would be, too. Our policy is triple-checking allergen labels before anything hits the front. If that didn't happen, someone's accountable. The woman didn't speak. She just crossed her arms and waited. Jamie returned with the clipboard, flipping to the relevant page. Sam's initials are here under the nut-free batch, she said. Quentin turned toward the prep area. Can you bring Sam out here? A few moments later, Sam walked out, apron dusted with flour, hands still damp from washing. She looked between Quentin and the customer, confused. Did you prep the chocolate chip batch this morning?
Quentin asked. Yes.
I followed the list. Were any peanut items nearby?
Sam blinked. No.
I used the nut-free tray. But wait. Lila was restocking the toppings bin while I was portioning. Maybe something got swapped then. Did you confirm the bin afterward? Sam's face fell.
No.
Usually Darren double-checked the order. But he wasn't here. Jamie stepped in. That's on me. I should have caught it. No, Quentin said. We fix this by responsibility, not blame. He turned to the woman. You have every right to be upset. We've identified the gap, and it won't happen again. Your next 3 orders are on us. And if there are any symptoms today, call us immediately. We'll cover the urgent care. The woman gave a curt nod and left, still bristling, but saying nothing further. Sam stood frozen, eyes wide. I'm not firing you, Quentin said, but I am mandating allergen retraining for everyone, myself included. And we're updating the prep process. No more single-person checks. Sam nodded, relief flooding her face. Later that evening, Quentin pulled up a chair beside Harold, who was breaking down boxes near the back sink. You holding up?
Quentin asked.
Harold gave a tired smile. Better than I expected. You ever think about teaching? Harold raised an eyebrow. Teaching what? Bread shaping.
Folda technique.
You've got a rhythm and people watch you. You may not know it, but they do. You think people listen to me? I think they need someone who's patient. Harold looked down at his hands. I'm not a leader. You don't need a title to lead. There was a pause. Then Harold asked, What changed your mind? About all this? Quentin leaned back, watching someone try to hold on to dignity in a place that didn't protect it. That stuck. Harold nodded slowly.
Well,
I can try it. Teaching, doesn't hurt to try. Good, Quentin said, because we're building something better here. And I want you part of it. The next morning, 2 of the rejected applicants arrived for interviews. One had worked in a hotel bakery, the other in a high school cafeteria. Both had been turned away for being too slow. Quentin sat with them in the back, apron on, hands still dusted with flour. I'm not here to ask trick questions, he said. I just want to know if you care about the food and if you care about the people making it. They both nodded, unsure but hopeful. You'll be training under Harold, Quentin said. He'll show you how we do things now.
Carefully, proudly.
Together. That night, as the store lights dimmed and the last register closed, Quentin stood alone near the front. He didn't need applause.
He didn't need a headline.
He just needed to believe that the next shift would be better than the last. And for the first time in a long time, he did. The first Monday after Darren's removal started before sunrise. Quentin was already at store 15 by 5:30, unlocking the back entrance with a new keycard. The bakery was quiet, cool, and carried the scent of dough proofing overnight. He flipped on the lights one by one, then moved toward the dry storage to begin restocking for the early batch. The floor still needed mopping, and the kitchen mats hadn't been laid out yet. He bent down and started pulling them into place himself. Jamie arrived 20 minutes later, balancing an oversized coffee in one hand and a clipboard in the other. She gave him a quick nod. Morning, she said, walking straight to the whiteboard and erasing the previous week's shift chart. Quentin glanced over. How bad is it? 3 call-outs already, she said, uncapping a marker. 1 sick, 1 no-show, and one just quit. Said she couldn't handle the stress after last week. Quentin stood upright, brushing flour off his knees. Let's scale back the menu today. Tighten the prep list, just hits and customer favorites. No experimental stuff. Jamie didn't argue. She just wrote in block letters. Core menu only Monday. By 6:30, the rest of the team trickled in. Sam and Lila stuck to the back, folding parchment and portioning batter in silence. Michael arrived with a hoarse voice, dark circles under his eyes. Quentin pulled him aside gently. You're coughing. I'm fine. I took something, Michael said, voice ragged. You're not clocking in, Quentin said. Go home. We'll figure it out. But there's no one, I said go home. We'll comp you. For the full shift. Michael didn't argue. He put down his apron and left without another word. That left them short in both front and back. Quentin jumped behind the prep table. He weighed and rolled dough, checking the timer on the proofer between tasks. Jamie handled the register solo, while Brenna floated between coffee and cleanup. There wasn't a moment to breathe. At 8:10, a man walked in wearing press slacks and a leather briefcase slung over his shoulder. He waited near the pastry case, looking at the laminated sign about limited selections. When Jamie greeted him, he didn't respond right away. You had raspberry danishes last week, he finally said. We're adjusting the menu temporarily, she answered, polite but firm. He looked past her toward the prep area. Is there a manager I can speak to? Quentin stepped forward, removing his gloves. I'm the owner. I can help. The man shifted his weight. I don't mean to be difficult, but this used to be the best bakery in the city. I've been coming here since the 3rd month you opened. Now it feels stripped down, less professional. Quentin nodded once. You're right. We're rebuilding. We had to make some changes to protect our staff. That means we're short-handed, and for a while, we'll be running lean. The man frowned. I appreciate the honesty. I just hope it doesn't stay like this. It won't, Quentin said, but it has to start here. The man gave a tight nod, picked a croissant from the case, and paid in silence. No thanks, no farewell. Jamie waited until he was gone before speaking. That's the 4th regular who said something like that. I know, Quentin said. We'll earn them back, but not by burning people out. At 9:30, Harold arrived for his shift. He walked slower than usual, but carried a small, spiral notebook in one hand. He set it beside the flour bins and looked around. Where's Michael? Sick, Quentin said. We're down 2 today. Harold nodded, rolled up his sleeves, and began shaping dough without prompting. He moved with care, every motion deliberate, precise. Lila watched him from across the table and quietly mirrored his technique. Lila, Harold said after a few minutes. You're pressing too hard on the fold. Let the dough sit in your palm. Don't crush it. Lila adjusted. Quentin saw it. Immediately the fold was cleaner, tighter. Jamie leaned over from the front counter. He's a better teacher than any of us. I know, Quentin said. He's got the job if he wants it. By midday, the tempo had steadied. The team was exhausted, but no one was flailing. There were fewer items in the case, but each one was baked right. Brenna handled customer questions with composure, even when people complained about missing items. No one raised their voice. No one snapped. At 1:15, a tall woman with short braids walked in wearing a plain black coat and no makeup. Jamie looked up and blinked. Aria, she asked. The woman nodded slowly. Got your message. Didn't expect to be invited back. Quentin stepped forward. I read your file. You were never given a fair shot. Aria folded her arms. I didn't leave because I couldn't handle the job. I left because I was tired of being treated like I didn't exist. You won't be invisible here anymore, Quentin said. There's a role open. If you're willing, we'll start you back on your terms. She studied his face. You're serious? I wouldn't ask if I wasn't. She nodded once. I'll come in tomorrow. Jamie handed her a clean apron from behind the counter. Hold on to this. You're going to need it. By mid-afternoon, they were nearly out of product. The pastry case held only a few butter rolls and one tray of scones. Quentin wiped down the prep table as Harold finished shaping the last batch of dough for the following morning. Can I show you something? Harold asked. Quentin stepped beside him. Harold opened his notebook. Inside were hand-drawn diagrams, full patterns, timing charts, shaping techniques. Each page was labeled and numbered. I started this when I got the job. Helps me remember things. Thought maybe I could turn it into a guide for the new hires. Quentin flipped through the pages. This is better than anything we've printed in years. I was going to give it to Michael before he left today. Give it to him when he comes back, Quentin said, and we'll make copies for everyone else. At 5, the last customer left. Quentin locked the door and turned the sign to closed. The team gathered near the front, leaning against counters and stools. No one spoke. They were too tired. Quentin stepped forward and looked at each of them in turn. I know this week's been heavy, but what you did today, every one of you, it matters. Not just because we got through it, but because no one got stepped on to make it happen. He turned to Jamie. I'm signing off on your promotion. District manager's already aware. You'll oversee this store and help rebuild the next one that needs it. Jamie blinked. Seriously? You held this place together without ever raising your voice. That's leadership. He looked to Harold. You'll be our training lead. You'll shape new hires just like you shaped that dough. I'll announce it officially at next week's team meeting. I'm not good at speeches, Harold said, half smiling. You won't need speeches. Just show them what you showed us. He turned to the rest of the team. For everyone else, we're hiring, we're training, and we're changing how things run. If you have concerns, you bring them to me. Not through forms. Not through middlemen.
Direct.
That's how we keep this real. No one clapped. No one cheered. But the silence wasn't heavy this time. It was full. After the team left, Quentin stayed behind. He sat at a prep table, staring at the empty case and the checklist still taped to the wall. It was riddled with marks, scribbles, adjustments, nothing clean about it. But for the first time in months, it was honest. He stood, turned off the lights, and stepped outside. The cool evening wind hit his face as he locked the door behind him. Behind the glass, the store sat quiet, shelves bare, kitchen wiped down. Not perfect, but whole. And that was enough.